importantly, so more people do it. So Mel, take it away.
Okay. I just want to talk about stratification a little bit, why we need to stratify seeds, and the importance of it. First off, not all seeds need to be stratified. If you're talking about garden seeds, cucumbers, corn, beans, etc., they don't need to be stratified. You can just take the seed off of the plant, wait till the time is right, plant it, it'll go. You know, it has to have the right temperature, right moisture, and it should go. The ones that you need to stratify are native plants that are native to this area. If you're talking about tropical plants, they're going to be a lot different than what you have here. So basically what we're talking about is trees, shrubs, and any of the perennials. Most of those have to be stratified. And I'll tell you a little bit about how to stratify them. If there's a few seeds besides the garden plants that don't need to be stratified. Your grasses generally do not need to be stratified. Some of the annuals do not. But anyway, talking about trees, your acorns and so on. What it amounts up to is you have a seed, it becomes mature, but it's dormant. And when it's dormant, it's not going to do anything. So if you, in nature, it falls down to the ground, it sits there for all winter, and if the conditions are right, and a squirrel doesn't eat it, a mouse doesn't eat it, it's in a good place. You get some moisture, and it begins to grow. White oak acorns will germinate in the fall, which is kind of unusual. But red oak acorns have to go through a stratification process. So what is stratification? What you're going to do is you're going to take the seed, and you got to be moist. The best way to do that is, and the temperature, two things, the moisture and the temperature. The ideal temperature is 37 degrees, which is your refrigerator. That's what most people's refrigerators are, right around there. So if it's 36, that's no big deal. Or even 40 will work. A lot of people have tried to stratify in these milk cartons, which will work, but the problem is with that is you have some warm days in December and January. On those warm days, those days do not count. It has to be 37 degrees or right around there. So that's why sometimes I think the milk cartons don't work, is because you have too many warm days, and that milk carton acts like a little greenhouse, and it gets too warm in there, it's not. So you need, depends on the seed, anywhere from 10 days to 2 years, and every seed is different. You can't just make a generalization and say, I'll do this and it'll work. Like I said, all your garden seeds do not need to be stratified. The only exception is strawberries. Strawberries need to be stratified for 10 days, that's all. And if you want to experiment, you can do this. Take a strawberry, it's got to be ripe. Take a knife and just shave off a few seeds. Put it on a paper towel, let it dry real well. And then when it's dry, you take a knife, you can scrape the seeds off. Stratify for about 10 days, put it in a pot, and it'll begin to grow. You can get your own strawberries that way. I've done it. It works. They claim it works on blueberries, but I've tried that and haven't had any success yet. So have to try again. Anyway, the best way to stratify is get a Ziploc bag. I have some back there. You put sand in there. I like sand because for the most part, it's sterile. It's not completely sterile like hospital sterile, but if you put soil in there, there's all kinds of funguses and different things in there, and there's a greater chance you're going to get mold. You want to avoid mold because that'll destroy the seed. But sand, for the most part, is somewhat sterile. So you take sand, it's got to be damp. You can't just take a seed, like in a package, like you bought a package, stick it in the refrigerator, sit there for 3 months, say, well, I stratified it. No, it won't work. There's a handful of seeds that will work that way, but I'd say 90% will not work. So what you've got to do is you put a little bit of sand in there, and it of course depends on the size of the seed. If you have a very large seed, you're going to need more sand. If you've got a very small seed like lobelia, cardinal flower, you just need a very small amount of sand. And it's got to be damp. If it's not damp, it won't stratify. So you want it damp but not wet. If you can see water collecting in there, it's too wet. Open it up, drain the water out, let it keep it damp. Anyway, you keep it damp, putting just enough sand in there to cover the seed. Put it in the refrigerator. Make sure you label it. I've made that mistake more than once. 3 months later, I pull it out and go, what is this? So anyway, it's hard to remember to do that, but and the date, put the date down in there too. I try to get everything in stratification by December 1st. That way you've got December, January, February, that's 90 days. By March 1st, you're ready to go. Anyway, you pull them out, and I think Jonathan and, where's Jeremiah? There he is. Well, they'll show you some ideas on how you can actually plant. And there's 100 different ways of doing that, but they're going to show you a couple ways that I think works pretty good. So anyway, when you do stratify, the seed is dormant, and it goes through this cold process that brings it alive, so to speak. So then when the spring comes, say March 1st, you take it, you put it in soil and give it the right temperature. Every seed is different, but usually 70, 75 is a real good temperature. 65 is okay for some. If you're talking about watermelon, they like it around 90, 95. But most seeds are about 70, 75. They germinate pretty well. So you give it the right temperature, you give it the right and moisture, boom, they're ready to go, and they'll start to grow. So there's a couple other things I was going to mention real quick. What you're trying to do is break dormancy. So
can you have it in stratification too long?
There are some seeds that need as long as 2 years, which is kind of weird. But possum haw is an example. What they do is you put them in the stratifier for about 3 months. You bring them into a warm environment for another 3 months. And then you put them back into a cold environment for another 3 months, and boom, they'll go. It's a long process, and it's hard to remember to do all that. So what I do with possum haw is I take the seed. You got to think of a peach peach for a second. As people, we want the outside, the fleshy part. We don't want the inside. But the seed is on the very inside of the shell. That's what you want. So when you take possum haw, for example, it's got a coating on it. In nature, what happens is a bird will eat that. All he wants is the fleshy part, and then he pops it out someplace. And if it happens to be in a good spot, begins to grow. But it might take 2 years for that to happen. So that's the longest that I know of. There may be some that are longer.
But if it needs only a short amount of stratification and you keep it in the refrigerator from now until March, is it going to be okay?
I would say for the most part, yeah. I wouldn't want to. What you got to watch for is mold. Mold can destroy all your seeds. If it's too wet, you might get mold on it, and so you got to be careful with that. I think if you wait a little bit, I wouldn't wait, too long. I think by April, May, I'd put them in the soil. In a pot, I'd put them in a pot. I think you have better odds. A lot of people want to rough up a spot and throw the seed on the ground, which will work, but I think the odds are pretty low. I think you're talking 5% germination. But if you go through the stratification process, I think you can get 80, 90% germination. So it's much more successful.
To kind of hit on that, there are seed codes. Prairie Moon Nursery probably has the best explanation on what seeds require. So like an A seed code, no stratification. C30 is 30 days minimum. C60 is 30 days minimum. And then they have probably almost a dozen seed codes with different numbers. But those are the most common ones.
Yeah.
There's a C90. What I like to do is put all my seeds out, figure out what codes they have, set these aside for next spring. The longer they're in the ground, the more likely they'll rot, or a roly-poly will eat the seeds. You know, if you have them outside, you know, voles or mice or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of things can go wrong.
So I just hold those till March maybe. These, since it's 30, I'll wait till probably January. And then the 60s,
That's
I'll
60
get them
days.
in like December.
Yeah.
That way you only have the amount of time in the ground. Like I'll show here in a minute, I've got a kit of how I prefer putting seeds in dirt and kind of put them in a sheltered area to let the temperature, freezing and cooling, do their normal natural thing. And I have the best results from that. Some things I do in the refrigerator, but I found it's really hard to regulate the moisture. He touched on that, the moisture levels. I end up getting a lot of rotted seeds doing them in
It's
the
too
fridge.
wet, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is 60 days, 30 days, 60 days, and some is 90 days.
Yeah.
And
Hate
you
to-
can look those up on the internet, huh?
Yeah.
And Prairie Moon is a good place.
Yeah, Prairie Moon doesn't
Excellent.
have it. If you just do a general search, make sure you're using the scientific name, because last year I searched and it was a ground cherry, which is a native tomato, and it was telling me it didn't need stratification, and it went forever. It didn't come up, and I'm like, wait a second, and then I found the scientific name, but I had a tray of seeds and dirt. I just covered it and put it in, I have a garage fridge. I just put it in the garage fridge for 30 days, and then took it back out. And they start
Sprouted.
coming. Yeah. So it's not, you don't necessarily throw something out if it doesn't work, you know, you do a little more, search why it didn't work.
Yeah, it's always tricky. But anyway,
You have
that's
more?
about it. Anybody have any questions or, you know?
Well, we circle to the questions after everybody, all
Okay.
three of them have talked, that way we can kind of converge on topics, so.
But, I encourage you to try some different seeds and, stratify them. And, I've had pretty good luck putting them in the refrigerator. So I like it better than putting them in, milk cartons.
Yeah, I do too. I've had better luck in the fridge with larger seeds like dogwood, on the larger side seeds. Some others use pill bottles are really good. Drill some holes in the bottom so the moisture can drain out, so it's not too much, and then you can just put your seeds in there in a little sand and a couple drops of water and shake it up. That works. Maybe put it in a Ziploc bag because it'll slowly leak out. The moisture will. And once they get through the stratification process, they'll start absorbing that water too. So they get towards the end of the stratification, they're ready to plant, and then a lot of times that's when you know they're ready. They can be placed outside.
Yeah. I was gonna say, sometimes they'll start germinating in the bag in the refrigerator.
Yeah.
I've had that happen. So you gotta check them every so often.
Yeah.
Are you adding water, are you checking them and adding water to make sure they stay moist while they're in the?
Yeah, but I keep it on the dry side versus
Yeah.
the wet side. The
Yeah.
wet side, you might get mold
Yeah,
and just, you know.
Yeah. Dry side is definitely much better.
I would just check it after a week or so, and if you see moisture collecting in there, you've probably got too much water in there. You're trying to drain it off.
Another thing I do is, because I'm new at this, is I will make multiple bags. I mean, they're just little baggies and they're little containers. So this week, I'll do a few seeds and I'll put it in there, and less than 30 days from, depending on when it needs to come out, I'll do a second one, and then I'll do a third one. And that way, I've got my redundancy in place, because I'm not an expert at this. I'm just having fun with it. Thank you.
Yeah, I do something similar. It's always good to save a little seed back, because then if you figure out it didn't work, then maybe start all over again.
That's a good idea. I had almost complete failure last year with the milk cartons.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. It's too hard for me to monitor moisture levels. That's the big
It can
thing.
be too wet, it can be too dry, it can get too hot in there. I mean, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. So,
And I think I used the wrong soil the first year too.
the other thing, if you put soil in there, there's a greater chance of mold, and mold will destroy your seeds. So that's why I like sand. It's not sterile like hospital, but it's a lot more sterile than soil, so. If you use sand, I've got some back there, you're welcome to take a small amount.
I've had some.
You
good
want a
luck.
very fine grained sand, not
I've had good luck with vermiculite.
vermiculite, yeah, that'll work too. Yeah,
And then you can see the seeds really well. Yeah.
yeah.
I haven't tried that, but that's a good idea.
Vermiculite's sterile, or, relatively speaking.
Relatively, yeah.
So.
I'm at the point where I do almost everything in bulk. So I'm gonna kind of show you, say you have an area 10 by 10 and you want to plant it in all one thing or a couple things, and you need a lot of plants. You can plant in all sorts of, stratify your seeds in all sorts of things. So if say you want coneflowers, I put either straw, but you'll get some seeds, wheat seeds come up, or you can put wheat cloth in the bottom of this, fill it up mostly with your dirt, and coneflowers is actually an egg, so I would wait to plant it in the spring. Fill this full of dirt, scatter your seeds, press them down firmly using another container or something. Once you get the dirt inside, I'll press them all down, scatter the seeds, and then I'll put a light coating of sand on top.
What does that look like on the inside, Jonathan?
This,
There we go. Okay, thanks.
you can use any, I try to use secondhand. These are, lettuce, single-use plastics. I try to reuse things.
Do you put drainage holes in there, I would think?
You can do that. This one in particular is wood poppies. It is a double dormancy. So it has, I forget what it's called. On the seed, there's like a sweet tasting part of the seed that the ants want to carry it away to their nest. And ant nests stay moist all the time. So the seed's adapted. They have to stay moist during the summer. They can't dry out, and then they stratify in the winter. So these have been sitting in soil since May, these seeds, wood poppy seeds. And then I'll put these outside soon to cold stratify. But yes, you can, if you want to use this container, it's better if they have holes in it, but I wanted to keep the moisture in, so I didn't drill any holes. I just pre-moistened the soil at the amount I wanted it, just barely moist, no extra, so it doesn't have a bunch of mold growing. And the sand on top helps prevent mold from growing too. I prefer using sand on almost everything, unless the seeds are so small that they can't come up through this sand. To mix your soils, if you have a bag of say Miracle-Gro, it's going to hold too much moisture. So you need to add, preferably you'd want to get a seed starting mix, but if I use what I have, and A lot of times that's always on hand, but I'll mix sand or some other, what is that for? Perlite? Yeah, I add something to it so it drains well. And I use a tote similar to this and a drill, and you can mix your soils up real easily that way. You can do it by hand, but I do so much large scale that it would take forever to mix it by hand. Let's see, where am I going with that? With this, if you have available containers, this works well too. Fill these full of dirt. This container is not made for that. Fill these full of dirt, press them down, sprinkle your seeds on top, put a little sand on top. I generally start pre-prepping soil to put seeds on the C60 in December. So I will go ahead and plant my seeds and set them outside in a sheltered area, and let it go through the normal freezing and thawing. If it snows, like last year, I had a whole pile of, these were full sheets stacked up, 10 high, and I shoveled a bunch of snow on top, because whether it helped or not, I've read that snow is a good way of slowly watering it, plus the nitrogen and the nutrients in the snow helps with that process. I tend to have the best luck with just trying to mimic the natural processes.
So it's okay, you can, you put the containers on top of each other, because they're not growing in.
They're not growing, but yes, in the spring I had a couple early sprouters that I didn't move the stack early enough, and I had a couple early sprouters, but it worked out. There was more seeds in there. The only drawback to having little pods like this, they're kind of tricky to keep the right moisture level once the seeds are sprouted. I think what else I need to go over.
Jonathan, could you share with us, like, why are you doing this? Why do you do this? And what's your goal? And personally and professionally, and Jonathan is one of the largest frequent contributors on our Facebook page. You've all probably seen him if you follow our Facebook page. He grows a lot of different things in a lot of different ways, but share the why.
A number of years ago, I bought some land and I wanted to turn it into a nature reserve or not preserve, a reserve, I guess. And I started planting trees, didn't know anything about native plants or any of that. And the more I learned, started uploading, trying to identify all the plants on my property. I use iNaturalist. And then I found the Indiana Native Plant Society on Facebook, and I'm like, it just opened up a big door on what, how native plants are so important for the food web. And our habitat loss is probably the major contributor to our wildlife loss. So the more habitat you can create, the more insects and animals can survive because they have food. And that's one, I like to grow things. I've been an avid gardener for probably 40 years. So I'm like, that's something I can do to contribute to helping our habitats and ecosystems. And started getting involved with the Indiana Native Plant Society, and they wanted to have more plant sales for fundraisers, and I started doing that, and it just snowballed into now. This past year, I have my plant dealer license, I have my nursery license, so I've kind of started a small nursery, but my main goal is to provide plants to the Native Plant Society sales, and the side business is basically just to help me with funds in order to grow plants for the Plant Society.
An expensive
It's a
habit.
vicious circle.
Yeah. But anyway, eventually I would like to retire and do it full time, but that might be a while down the road. I enjoy it. I love going out and trying to find the insects that are, drinking the nectar and laying eggs, and it's always exciting to call my wife, hey, I found a new caterpillar.
And she said,
that call.
and her response is,
What does it look like with it?
At least she doesn't find them in the laundry when she's washing your clothes these days.
Yeah, I have cuckleburs and stuff that in the laundry all the time. Like, we've separated our laundry now, so.
When you said keeping those, your moisture is tricky,
Yeah.
do you bottom water or?
Yeah, sometimes I bottom water. It's better to be on the dry side when stratifying. So if they dry completely out, it's really not that big a deal in the winter. During the dormant season, as soon as like the end of February, March, you don't want to let it dry out, because like these wood poppies, I almost forgot to check them. It was at the end of February and they were starting to sprout. So some things start very early. They're cold tolerant. They're kind of like lettuce and carrots, and if anyone gardens, you plant your carrot seeds in February, your lettuce in February. A lot of natives are like that.
So do you transplant them into a different container at that point?
Yeah, so if I'm growing them in this, once they get a size where they're almost root bound, maybe a couple inches, or if there's too many that came up and they're crowding each other out, then I'll pop them out and put them in another container and grow them that way. This is really nice because you can kind of just let them do their thing and walk away, and they'll grow full, healthy, like full-size plants as long as you don't overseed them. As long as they're not too crowded. And like I planted coneflowers. I started those in June, I think. Stuff that doesn't need cold stratification. If you don't have time, all the way up till July, you can plant those most of the time.
and if you guys follow us on Facebook, or you follow the Indiana,
Southwest.
what's Bill Daniels'
Oh,
Facebook?
Native Seed
Native
Communities.
Seeds. There is super cool. Jonathan made a post a month or so ago where he dumped his coneflowers out of that tray. They are full grown, and he planted them. So these little boogers are tough. I mean, you gotta water them and take care of them during the summer, but he literally let them grow to full size in that tray right there, and then planted them in a fall.
And they're all, I mean, they're kind of like sod. I mean, all the roots are connected. But
You planted them in clumps. You tore
yeah,
all
I
the clump
did.
and
You can
planted
just
them.
tear them. It's not. Once they're at a more mature level, if you tear the roots, it's like pruning a tree or shrub. The roots will just get stimulated and keep growing. Like, you don't have to be gentle to them.
Remind me again how you got that, how you put that together. It's like something at the bottom, like a screen, and then
Since it has holes for
medium.
draining, you need something to keep the dirt from washing out. So whether it be straw or a weed cloth. I think I did straw, but I think weed cloth would be easier because then you could, if you had it draped over, you can just lift it out easier. I don't know.
What about newspaper?
Newspaper would work. Anything that lets water through. Newspaper might hold the water a little more.
And like for those containers right there, is anybody a Hastings, Nancy Hastings visitor? Nancy sells her crates that her plants come in at the end of the season for $2 and $3. And a lot of nurseries do that because they get shipped their perennials in these big black crates. And I buy a truckload every year. I'm in an SUV load because I use them for different things, but the plastic is treated, so it is UV resistant, so it will last forever and ever and ever. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I've got a whole stack of these. So the ones that need stratification, I'm gonna go ahead and plant and then just stack them up underneath my, I have a overhang of my barn so that it's not getting constant rain, you know, that washes the dirt out. And then just kind of monitor them for moisture levels and just leave them there over the winter. Then that way, like, it's easy to transport things, move them where I want them. One thing to note, I usually keep seedlings starting to sprout in a partially shaded area. Early in the spring, it won't matter, the sun's not intense, but as the sun gets more intense, you may only want like morning sun, like 4 or 5 hours, because they dry out really quickly, the little seedlings do, when they sprout. Another thing to help with moisture, I use burlap. So if the seeds are too tiny for sand, if you're, you know, planting on top, you can just take that, you know, cut it to size and lay it on top. And, you know, keep that, you can see kind of the moisture levels from the burlap, and it'll let sunlight through, but keep it the right moisture level, or it helps with that. So that your seeds, as they're germinating, they're not drying out too much. Let's see. If you have large, I keep sand in a 5-gallon bucket, but if you have a large area you're putting sand on, a container with holes in the bottom, you can just scoop it out and it just kind of falls out nice and even. It's not doing this sort of thing. It's really hard. That just makes it a little easier. You just kind of do this kind of number. You know, I'm doing everything in large scale, so I have to do it as efficient as possible. So I find that these work for small scale plantings. I mainly use these for my garden vegetables, but they would work too. You just want to make sure you the soil is, you pack it down a little bit. You don't want to use completely loose soil. It needs to be kind of like firmly pushed down, so there's not a lot of air in it. But these are easy. You can plant these and stick them in your fridge if you wanted to. I have a garage fridge. I got in trouble for putting too much stuff. But like,
are there holes in the bottom of the egg carton?
No, I don't have holes in there. But if you wanted to, yes. But if I'm going to put it in the fridge, I don't want it really leaking. So when I'm mixing up my soil, I'll mix it up to the level I want it. A squirt bottle with a mister is a good thing for small scale. If you want to just add a little water but not a lot, you can just open it up and mist it. That's what I'll do with these in the spring. I'll have them under somewhere where I can take the lid off, but the rain's not gonna beat down on them and fill it up with water because it doesn't have any drainage. But then I'll keep a squirt bottle next to it and occasionally moisten daily or every other day.
The ones you have outside are under the underhang. What do you do to protect those from voles and squirrels?
I have a barn cat. I don't recommend it. It's my wife's cat, but yeah, that's been an issue. Mel might,
What's that?
do you have suggestions to keep
On what now? I'm sorry.
voles and mice away from your seed and stuff?
Elevate it, get it off the floor. If it's on the floor, there's a good chance mice will find it. If you
Yeah.
got it on a table, that helps a big difference. I started
They can't climb up.
tomatoes this 2 years ago, and you know, in warm days I put them outside, and I put them in the garage at night, and noticed about 100 of them. I got the tops chewed right off. Mice and set traps and caught 4 mice. So they were having a good time. They thought my tomatoes were great. So, you know, but if you elevate them, it's more difficult. You get them on a table or something like that.
Karen, what do you do?
For those, the open containers that you're gonna put outside, squirrels will wreak havoc on the, and whatever you put in there. They love that soft soil, so I use either hardware cloth on top of it with a brick or
Yeah.
chicken wire
Yeah.
to keep them out.
So if these are closed up, where if you're having them stacked, it'd be easy just to cover the top one. You know.
I know the Indiana Native seed communities, they do everything like in beds on the ground, like their winter sowing. And it literally looks like a screen door, you know, on top of the frame, where they've taken an old-fashioned screen door, you know. But I mean, they screen it really fine because they are trying to keep everything, like you said, insects are gonna eat the seeds, and it's a lot of work. Of course, they're doing it for tens of thousands of plants, you know. But that's why I use milk jugs, and last year I had a 90% success rate. But you know, everybody's different, everybody's approach is different. I'm semi-retired, so I get out there and play with them all the time. So I know how much water's in them, but yeah, and I've not had any issues with that. I've never found a mice try to go up the jug, down the hole. But Susan.
Oh, all I've had is that I've used the wire, but the first year I didn't, I had no trouble. The second year a squirrel got in there a couple times and dug out some stuff, but I just used the little 4-inch pots, you know, in a tray.
Yeah,
and then
that
I
works
could put
too.
some wire over the top.
There's no one way. If
Right.
it holds soil, you know, and you can plant it what you have. I like to reuse what I have and not buy
One
things.
thing, a couple of things, maybe Jeremiah was gonna get to it, but like talking about, not everything's gonna be ready to go in the ground as quickly. My experience on the few things I've grown is like cardinal flowers are very slow. It takes a whole 2 growing seasons to get those big enough to really hold their own and put in the ground. You talked about the cone flowers are, you know, basically half a season, they're ready, right?
Yeah.
I had good luck with like Monarda and Coreopsis.
Yeah.
They grow pretty vigorously, so they're ready. If you winter sow them now, they'll be ready to plant in the spring, right? Maybe some of those things, and how much you get, like out of 1 4-inch pot, which I seeded very heavily. Everything comes up, I got 2 flats of plants out of 1 little pot. So those are some things you might wanna know if you're growing for yourself. You could end up with a lot more plants than you need, and that's okay, cause you can always share.
Yeah, if you plant really thick, just keep in mind, you'll probably have to split all those plants off sooner.
That's tedious.
Yeah.
But if it-
I have so many things going, I gotta give myself more time, so that's why I kinda branch out and do things in a larger, but yeah, if you don't have a lot of space, I mean, you could have 2 different types of plants here and get dozens of each, you know, to fill out, you know, 50 pots just in this, potentially, you know, depending on if they're just that big when you transplant them. I mean, they go pretty far when you have like 15 or 20 little seedlings in one little.
What do you do when you're overwintering, like those cardinal flowers or things that aren't ready to go in the ground? Are you just leaving them in your pots and letting the elements do what they may? And what, have you had trouble with things not surviving the winters if you do that?
Like the
Like-
ones that need stratification?
Well, the ones that have, like, you've grown them the season before, but they're not ready to
Okay.
plant. And you're overwintering them in pots.
It's early in my journey of how to keep them overwintering, but getting them on the ground where they're basically, the temperature fluctuation isn't too extreme at a time, and most of them will come back the next year. I've not had very good luck with milkweeds. The roots tend to freeze real easily. All your asters are easy. There's another, can't think of right offhand. There's a couple families of natives that, like, it's easy to overwinter. All your grasses overwinter real easily. Just get them on the ground so they're not, and maybe pack some mulch around them or leaves or something so that fluctuation of temperature, you know, with climate change and the vortex coming down, you know, it can go from 60 degrees outside now and then 3 days later it's 0. So you want to slow down that temperature change in the soil so it doesn't shock their roots. The more you can do that, then the more likely they'll make it through the winter.
Can we hand off to Jeremiah now? Unfortunately, the library boots us out at 11:30.
Oh, wow.
And that includes cleanup. They only let you have the room for 2 hours and 30 minutes.
All right, so my name is Jeremiah Tooley, and I work full-time at Toyota. I have 2 kids. I own Tooley's Lawn Care, which I do mowing, and I also do chemical applications as far as getting rid of weeds and everything. And I know there's mixed reviews on chemical applications, but I also do natives. So working on native restoration. So I have converted my property, half of my property, I've taken out my landscaping, I've taken out my yard, and I now have a native yard. I've not mowed my yard this year. So,
But it's grass, right?
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
no
so-
forbs in it, it's
Yeah.
native grasses.
yeah, so it's
Yeah.
one species, it's buffalo grass, and it's not native to Indiana, but it's native to Illinois and West. It's a plains grass. So my yard is 12 inches tall. It's not been mowed. It seeded itself in 2 months. It only requires 12 inches of rain a year, and I'm working on adding that to my business. And then I also will have 40 species in my landscaping to where I will have a native prairie in my front yard, and I live in a subdivision. So, and I live on a not even a quarter of an acre. So, and I've created so 320 homes. I'm the only one with a native yard. So, I can eat out of my landscaping. I can do different things like that. But also my wife owns a bakery. So, she's had surgery. So I was helping her while I was off work, helping her with her bakery. So there's macarons back there from her bakery if you would like some.
Don't eat the half of one, that's my other one.
But, what's the name of the bakery?
So it's East Olive Macarons. Yeah, so it's named after my
That,
kids.
after your kids, yeah.
Yeah, so, so yes.
How much blowback do you get from your HOA about your yard?
So I actually have a sign that I had made that says native prairie planting. As far to my knowledge, I've not had anything because with our chapter's awesome movement, we have had it to where it's been changed. The language has been changed to where you can have native plants and they're not in the noxious weeds anymore like they used to be. So I think that's helped kind of get that back and get it into the, what we should be having instead of a lawn. But like everything, that's the other part of my business. I started in lawn care, because everybody likes, out where I live in McCutcheonville, everybody likes to stripe pretty yards, no weeds or anything like that. So where I come in is I put the least amount of chemical down possible. I'm not like True Green. I'm not showing up at your house and I'm just spraying and walking off. I'm actually putting the least amount of down. And then I use that knowledge to the native side to where I do invasive removals and things like that. And the hunting properties that I have, I
go and I remove some of those invasives to help with the native comebacks and things like that. So, but today I'm going to show you my different stratification method. So these are called seed snail rolls. So basically what you do is you'll roll this out, and this is bubble wrap. This is 12-inch bubble wrap. So I planted these all three at the same time. So these are around July. And so this is still grass. And I don't know if you can see it from back there, but it is actually root bound. So even though this is 12 inches tall and it started in July, it's already root bound. So
Which prairie grass is it?
still grass. This is that still grass that you gave me. That still grass
Yeah,
seed.
it wouldn't be still grass.
What is it?
No, that,
Okay, go ahead.
I'll look up it here in a
We'll let
minute.
him debate that one.
Okay, so, sorry, switchgrass.
Which grass?
Right, switchgrass. That's why you label it. Switchgrass. No, you don't want still grass. Wrong one. All right, so, and this is foul mama grass. You know, it's not quite. It's getting there, but it's not quite root bound yet. But, and then this is purple prairie clover. So, I like these methods because you can take and with the size of a flat, so like Jonathan's flat sizes, you only get 50 in there, roughly. So with this, you can get a couple hundred in here, depending upon seed size. So whenever I get done with this, whenever I decide, hey, I want to plant this, I can undo the duct tape and then roll it out, and I can go directly into the ground if I want to, or I can go transfer it to something else. So say, you know, hey, I want to keep this and I want it to keep growing, but I want to put it in pots for the plant cell. So then I'll
So how
just,
do you get that started?
that's
I
what I'm
don't
going to show you.
understand.
I'm going to show you right now. So, and then this is bubble wrap. This is polystyrene. So I've got a roll here so you can look at it, take pictures and
Where'd
whatnot.
you get that at?
Lowe's. This is a 5.5 inch by 50 foot. It was $8.
And they're reusable, like you
Yeah.
reuse them over and over again.
Yeah, so this is like door insulation for around doorways. So the easiest way to do this is you want to use the lid to mine. Yeah, I'll just use this lid.
No, you lift it up.
So I'll take it.
Oh, this is gonna be the most videoed event of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, if anyone's on Facebook and has questions about what he said, it is on the chapter, or you can just go back and review it. On what? On the what? On the Facebook, stop it, Native
Plant Society.
Plant Society.
Facebook page.
Jeremiah Tooley is the name that is under.
Yeah, I didn't mention that. Wear gloves when you're working with soil.
They're too small. I'm not-
Unless you're one to spend, you know, a lot of time cleaning the nails or whatever.
I'm like, wow, we're serving food.
So the easiest way to do it is, you know, you get your soil wet and then just slowly pack it in here.
I have a permanent table set up in my garage where, you know, I'm potting stuff up all the time, or planting seeds. I'll have a soil mixture ready to go with the lid on it, you know, a big tub, so that I don't have to spend time, if I just have 5 minutes, I need to plant something, I can just, or have the soil ready to go.
What is your soil mixture there, Jeremiah?
So this is, so I'm a grower for the plant cells, and this is just the mix that we use for germination or our potting mud mix that we go right before the sales, and then just added water, that's it.
Is it a mix that you purchased or?
Yeah, so, if you're a grower, then the Plant Society for our sales, they help us, give us soil for the plant cells.
Kathy could probably give you the details on what brand it is.
Yeah, this is Pro Mix.
Pro Mix.
Pro Mix, is that right, Karen? Yeah. Pro Mix, okay. So, designate which end is gonna be your bottom, and I like to pack that in a little bit tighter, because then as you roll, take this and you'll kind of lay it there.
After you put the seeds
I was gonna say, are you putting seeds on there?
You'll see that part.
Okay, patient.
Trust the process.
Thank you, trust the process.
So, now, you have your roll. Yeah. It'll stay like that.
He's used to having our little ones in the garage.
So.
Does certain seeds work better for this process that can do
Anytime.
anything?
Doesn't matter what seed
So you could also do this with the seeds we were talking about before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really are 1,000 ways of doing this.
It's kinda neat.
So, you go back through, like, oh, well, some of that soil compacted more than I thought, you can just go back in and take it and fill it in.
And I found this on the internet and sent it to Jeremiah and he tested it out.
Yeah. So. It's not old.
So how do you keep this moist?
What is
You
it?
having trouble keeping it moist?
No,
No?
so what I do is, and then I just let them sit outside and let it go through the stratification process, but what's nice about these is you can pick them up and look to see if it's wet on the bottom. I'll leave it, or you can bottom water them, but if it's dry on top, I'll pick it up, if it's moist on the bottom, it'll be all right. And then periodically, you'll want to, once every couple weeks, put some water on it, or if it's rained or snow, like Jonathan talked about, I'll put snow on top of them too. And then take my seed.
So I got another question back. So my question is that versus, so I've done winter jugs, but then I've also done the 4-inch pots with hose and put them in a tote with hose.
Okay.
So I would only have one thing to move, I'd have 12. But that method right there, when you were talking, when she was talking about separating, would be much easier.
Yeah, so I
Because
can,
you got that foam in there.
yeah, so, and then also this kind of insulates it, doesn't let it get as hot, and doesn't stay, if you're moving it back and forth hot and cold, you're not gonna worry about it. If you leave it outside, it'll insulate it a little bit over winter. If you do
Yeah,
have,
well, once you get them into either a 4-inch or the jug, when you get ready to start separating,
yeah.
you lose something. I do.
Yeah, well, this, you can, just like that, I can unroll that right now, and I can have there's probably a couple hundred plants in there. And I'm taking that versus you're having all those stacked up, flats, and you've got flats everywhere. I've accomplished it in a smaller area.
Personal preference.
Jeremiah, do you feel like it's easier to separate your plants when you roll that out?
So, this would be my first year doing it, so.
Okay.
We'll find out.
It's an experiment.
Yeah,
But
so.
if you divide your seeds in threes, you can do a roll, you can do a
all
milk
your
jug,
plants
never
are one
leave the
thing.
top off the top of the milk jug, poke the holes in the bottom. And you can do tray flat sewing, and then you can post it on the social media page.
Yep.
And share with everybody.
So, this is purple cone flower, so it doesn't need stratification, but I'm gonna put it outside. But I know frost is coming, obviously I'm gonna come in, cause this could germinate now, cause we're getting ready, it's gonna be 70 today. So the next couple of weeks, it's gonna be in the 50s and 60s, this could start, and I will have to protect it, because it's a seed that's the A class, that doesn't need stratification. So, but
So do you kind of use do most people in the room here use kind of the winter solstice, the December 20th, do your winter sowing? I do. Because now we're cold and we're not gonna get well, we can't get extremely warm again, but December 20th is a really good target date, so keep that in mind today, you got a whole month to get ready to do this. Yeah. If you're doing it outdoors.
How many, if you don't care, how many people have already done winter sowing before? Just show of hands.
Does it count
And a
if
few
we
people
fail?
have-
Yes, yes.
Does it count if we fail miserably?
I'm on time. There we go. I love
So are you gonna top that off with seeds or dirt, or did you just kind of test it?
So I just kind of compacted it in because, you know, the seed's only this big. So as you water, it'll kind of put itself in. I don't want to completely cover it. You can put sand over it, and it'll be fine. It'll get up through the sand. But then I liked it because I can monitor it from the bottom to see the flats and everything. You can't see anything once you get it in there.
Then you can see if it's root bound.
Yeah, just like that one's root bound. So I need to get those out of there. But I'm going to attempt to overwinter those, like we talked about, plants that have come up and we didn't get them in the ground, overwintering. So that's what this is for, to kind of also, these are my experiments in that way.
Yeah.
And then I like to keep it in a tub like this or something, so that way, if it does come out, soil comes out, it's contained, easy to water and maintain
You
it.
have, you know, leftover pots and just stick it in a pot to hold it too.
Right.
You know, if it's the right size.
So instead of, you know, there's, you know, 50 in here, 100 in here, and 100 in here. If you convert that to flats, you'd have flats covering this table, and it'd be, you know,
A lot less room.
a lot less room. You don't have any room, and
It seems to me that this might be less attractive to the squirrels and whatever.
Yeah.
could be. So I have shelves. So whenever where I stratify my stuff is elevated because I got extremely lucky. And when Kiwis went out of business, I bought their racks that they used to transport their plants. So like what Lowe's has, when you go out to Lowe's, Home Depot, they have those racks. Well, I have 2 of them that hold 6 or 8 shelves. So they're 4 foot long, 2.5 feet wide, and they fit the flats perfectly. So now, if you convert it to this, now I can put probably 1,000 plants on one shelf versus having, see, what did I get, 5 flats? So what is that, 45 to 100 per shelf? Now I can get 1,000 on a shelf if I wanted to go like Jonathan's large scale has a nursery. So I'm thinking about doing the dealer license, and that way I can do conversions. My big thing is lawn conversions is what I'm looking to do. People that want to go into the native world that don't want to do landscaping, that, oh hey, I've worked 20 years on my landscaping, I don't want to do it. Like Kay's got amazing landscaping and full of natives, but you know, if Mike doesn't want to mow the yard anymore, and, you know, then that's where I would come in. So, you know, like retirement communities, people with disabilities and things like that's what I'm looking at to do, is to get in there to where I can do that and they can still have something that's nice, native, it doesn't look wild, and all you have to do is edge it up off of your driveways and sidewalk, and that's the extent. Most people can carry a weed eater, you know, whether it's electric or gas. So that's just a lot easier to do it that way.
This
So.
is so cool. Who else has questions on this? Okay, who is gonna try this at least on one day this summer? Look at that, y'all got those pictures. Remember, that's your entry fee today.
Recycle that bubble wrap that you get from Amazon.
There you go.
Yeah. Guys, can you, I think it would be nice if there's people that are new to this or have not had success to tell what are some of the easier plants that you found to start. For me, it's been, like I said, Coreopsis and Monarda have done really well.
These grasses,
Grasses.
like this, anything with an A is extremely easy.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So
So you don't have to stratify.
So stuff you don't have to stratify, because like my neighbor, she had asked for a staghorn sumac. Oh, I want to get this because she lives by me. Mel lives by me. She's sent me a picture of his landscaping. It's like, hey, what is this? I want it. So I gave her some seed and explained the whole process. She's like, oh yeah, I don't think I can handle that. Go with the A class. It's easy. People get in their minds, oh hey, I can just go out and put seed down, but like, we've talked about today, stratifications, what Mel talked about, Jonathan talked about, it's not just go put it down and go. You have all these different classes you have to meet.
Yeah, and I think we kind of refer to it's Prairie Moon Nursery.
Yeah.
And if you can access all their stuff online, but if you order from them, I think even if you can ask for a catalog, and when you open it up, it's page 2 or 3, it has this whole, index of all the codes and what that means. So it's a very good resource. Yeah, what do you think? And Karen, like, what do you think's easy to start?
I said I ordered stuff.
Jonathan, you got an answer already?
Home flowers, base stuff is the easiest.
When you go out to Prairie Moon and you're looking at the codes, I want you to do me a favor. I'm trying to hook you on this, okay? Pick your favorite plant. Go to Prairie Moon Nursery and call it up. They're gonna show you a picture of what it looks like in every stage of its life. They're gonna show you what the root structure looks like. Is it gonna taproot, gonna go straight down? Is it gonna be all fibrous? And then they have this really cool section called Q&A. And where real people have submitted their questions, you can submit a question. If you have one, they answer it within 24 hours. You get an email answer, plus they post it on the site. And they are just amazing. Now, don't get me wrong, they're serving the United States. So they're not gonna answer your question, I live in southern Indiana, they're not gonna be that specific, but they have amazing customer service. And I know there are many wonderful dealers out there. Also on the Indiana Native Plant Society, the main webpage, they have a page where you can find people that sell plants. If you want to buy a plant it, get your own seed, you don't want to do it. And so we've got our sale, but there's all sorts of resources out there. So Mel, how do we want to have fun back here, and what are the